Member for Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. And I rise, of course, to oppose this matter of public importance, MPI, that's been moved by the member for Brighton, which seeks to condemn our Victorian Labor Government for the real action that we've been taking on economic management, budget priorities and revenue and big build infrastructure projects, our focus on jobs, employment, our investments and support for nurses, teachers and police, our work in bringing back the State Electricity Commission to transition our energy sector to cleaner, cheaper, renewable forms of energy. Because, Acting Speaker, the reality is that just like a Liberal Party branch meeting, God, imagine what that's like, this motion is one that's been written by the member for Brighton, who should actually be renamed as the Shadow Minister for Talking Down Victoria. It's been written in the Liberal Party's own echo chamber. It's been plagiarised from the long discredited news outlets like Sky News After Dark, which they're obsessed with. It's a motion that's totally devoid of any real solutions and only focused on the Liberals' never-ending list of grievances which continue to accumulate after 10+ years in opposition. It's totally tone-deaf to the current real-world economic and cost of living challenges being experienced globally, nationally, across the state. And as the Shadow Treasurer, he shows absolutely no vision, no plans and no idea through this motion in what it takes to lead this state's economy. Because firstly, from the very outset, Acting Speaker, how can you trust the Liberal Party with a straight face? How can they stand in this place with a straight face and claim they are the party of economic and budget management? This is the party that right now can't even get its own house in order. It's the party that's totally divided and at war with itself. It's the party that's in the process of suing itself. It's the party that can't even decide if it can or should cover the costs or legal expenses of one of its own members. It's the party that's in the process of sending one of its own MPs concerningly bankrupt, potentially. If the Liberal Party can't even manage its own internal affairs, how can they ever be trusted to manage the Victorian economy, the Victorian budget and the household cost of living supports millions of Victorians depend on to make ends meet and make life easier? And the Shadow Treasurer of all people is the least credible on this front because it was his own selfishness in wanting to secure the Shadow Treasury portfolio at the expense of the member for Sandringham that's now left the entire Liberal Party and the Liberal movement in a precarious philosophical and financial position. As demonstrated by the Liberal leader, Shadow Treasurer, just like the member for Hawthorn has sadly and disgracefully been left to his own devices to fend to himself, Victorians know where they stand with this opposition leader and this Shadow Treasurer. They stand on their own. So the Liberals have no credibility whatsoever to lecture this parliament and the Victorian people on how this state's economy and budget should be managed. Get your own house in order is the message from here to the Liberal Party before they get up and start lecturing on financial and fiscal management. And also, once you do, get a vision. You can't seek to govern by grievance and then campaign on grievance and then seek the support of the people to then give you that mandate. Look at what happened to Peter Dutton and the federal Liberals. No vision, no plan. Secondly, and even more concerningly, Acting Speaker, for all its stats and supposed facts in this motion, the reality is this motion does not even mention, not once, I was waiting to hear this in the Shadow Minister's budget motion contribution. Didn't hear it, haven't read it in the motion. Never once has he mentioned here cost of living, jobs, kinders, schools, TAFEs, hospitals, and the list goes on and on and on. Not once are those terms mentioned in this motion that he's put to this House. And the reason why he hasn't mentioned them, Acting Speaker, is because we know the Liberal and National Party don't support these things. They never have and they never will. Because if they got the opportunity again to get back into government, we know the vicious cuts that they would pursue in office. Cuts to all of our cost of living supports and measures. Cutting free kinder, cutting free dental in schools, cutting the free glasses in schools program, cutting free TAFE. We saw on the eve of the federal election, Senator Sarah Henderson make it very clear where the federal Liberal government stood when it came to free TAFE. They wanted to get rid of it entirely. And that's what this state Liberal opposition will do as well. They'll cut the $100 energy saving bonus. We haven't heard them speak in support of that bonus. They'll sack frontline public service workers, nurses, teachers, police officers, like they've done before in the 90s with Jeff Kennett. And they'll privatise our hospitals, and the list just goes on and on and on. The member for Brighton's contribution has demonstrated the Liberal Party are not committed to retaining or expanding any of these essential cost of living supports or measures at all. At all. That's why fundamentally our approach to economic and budget management is different. On this side, we deliver budgets that work for people, families and households, while the Liberals deliver budgets that cut, cost and punish working families and households through their vicious and ruthless cuts. Again, just look at how the Liberals are treating one of their own, and a former leader of the party whom they voted for in undertaking his duties in leading the party. Make no mistake, if the Liberals ever got back in, they'd take the axe through the budget and they'd leave Victorians to their own devices. But, Acting Speaker, the Victorian Liberals are trying it on the Victorian people. They're trying to sell a narrative that they've changed. They've changed, Acting Speaker. Just like George Costanza in Seinfeld used to say, it's not a lie if you believe it. And they're believing their own mistruths. And I draw the House's attention to the Cianflone episode where George Costanza pretends to have a holiday house in the Hamptons of all places, Acting Speaker. And he's boasting to his in-laws about this holiday home that he's got in the Hamptons. And he's boasting and talking about it in downtown New York, and they end up calling his bluff. They take him up in his offer. They want to come and see this house in the Hamptons. And as they're taking the big drive down to the Hamptons, he's talking about how he's got so many master bedrooms, so many en-suites. He's got even horses on this massive, vast property on the Hamptons. He's got panoramic beach views. But the reality is they drive through the day and through the night, and they get to the end eventually of this dirt road on a peninsula where it's pitch black and a full moon and there's nothing else to see. There's nowhere left to go. He gets out of the car and finally admits it was all a lie. He doesn't have a beach house. It never existed. He doesn't have the horses, Smoochie and Poochie and whatever they were called. And it's the same with the Victorian Liberal Party. They're trying to sell us a lie that they've changed. And they're trying to take the Victorian people on a ride down this journey like George Costanza did with his in-laws. But we see through it, Acting Speaker. We see through it because we've been there before. We've been to the end of that dirt road with the Victorian Liberals before, and it's all about cuts. It's all about closures. It's all about public sell-offs, Acting Speaker, and that's the truth. We see through their mistruths, that's for sure. We see through the mistruths. And again, Acting Speaker, look no further than what happened. The Liberals and Nationals were decimated at the last federal election. It's the same playbook at a federal and state level. They haven't listened. They're not learning. The Victorian people and Australian people overwhelmingly rejected the Liberal national agenda. The Liberal national agenda. They wanted to, at a federal level, sack public servants across Canberra and across the country. They wanted to force public servants back to the office and abolish working from home for everybody, and people didn't buy it. They sought to cut $2 billion in federal investment from the Suburban rail loop and also send the signal that all federal money for major infrastructure projects had a big question mark on it. How can you trust the federal Liberal government if they're going to take $2 billion out of that project? What about the money which they would have ripped out of the North East Link and all the other projects which they never supported, Westgate Tunnel, Metro Tunnel and the level crossings? They wanted to cut $2 billion out of the Melbourne Airport rail link and essentially make the project redundant. $2 billion out of the Sunshine Station project would have made the airport rail link unviable, like George Costanza's drive down the dirt road. You need to fix Sunshine Station before you can build the airport rail link. I'm not sure if these guys have ever been to Sunshine, St Albans or the Bringbank area, but Sunshine Station is crucial for redevelopment to facilitate the Melbourne Airport rail link, which the Liberals wanted to cut and the western suburbs rejected. They wanted to cut Medicare, urgent care clinics. They were cutting HECS debt. Where were they federally on cutting HECS debt? Again, they wanted to abolish free TAFE as well. Introducing a tax incentive for business long lunches. Talk about priorities. Tax refunds on people's mortgages, which would have driven up the cost of housing and done nothing to support supply. And of course, their infamous $300 billion plan for nuclear reactors.
Point of order. Member for Pascoe Vale will take a seat. The member for Polwarth.
Acting Speaker, I just draw your attention to the fact that the member for Pascoe Vale, in his enthusiasm, has sort of mistaken the parliament that he's actually in. He's spent the last 5 minutes or so, we leave him a little bit of leeway, talking about federal policy.
Wrap it up, the member
we
for
might draw
Polwarth.
us back to the attention of the matter of public importance, which was a state-based issue. And if you'd like, we're happy
That's
to
enough,
provide some advice
member
on the difference between
Polwarth.
state and federal.
The member for Polwarth can take a seat. This is a very wide-ranging matter of public importance, although I would encourage the member for Pascoe Vale to come back to state-based matters.
Mr. Acting Speaker, and always happy to take your guidance, of course. But look, the big infrastructure projects which the Federal Liberal Party were opposed to, we're not only investing in to create jobs and new opportunities, but we're bringing communities along. For example, we've got the My Youth drawing competition that's out and about at the moment. I've seen there's amazing competition entries going in, but the ones that are not being accepted is this one here. We're not going to see this on the face of the new Youth My Key, that's for sure, as long as I'm in this place.